On January the 16th, we received a call from the doctor. Martin, you have leukemia. This is serious. This can kill you. And that, our life trajectory changed in 15 words. The one thing that Natalie and I did discuss was the art of surrender. When things are happening in your life that perhaps you don't necessarily like, perhaps you're resisting, there's natural resistance there. But if you completely surrender and let what happens, then your emotions don't get trapped in your body and everything starts to flow. This is not my journey. This is our journey together.
I was still like, no, it's not going to be anything too serious. Basically, your immune system was just gone. I was like, what? Why? Why us? Why is this happening? Anger coming up, and then sadness coming up, and then confusion coming up. I had all sorts of things coming up.
Ka-cha! Welcome to the Still Not Dead podcast. I'm Marty.
I'm Nat.
And on January the 16th, we received a call from the doctor. Martin, you have leukemia. This is serious. If you feel sick, go to the hospital. This can kill you. And that was a conversation with Dr. Greg that changed our lives. And as part of the reason we decided to do the Still Not Dead podcast. But before we get into that, we're just going to give you a very brief rundown on who we are. So, Nat, do you want to go first?
I will. Can I just quickly say, although the subject matter sounds really dark, which it is, it's not all going to be dark. I just want to put that in there. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of light and joy as well. But yeah, I'm Nat. I am a mum. I am a founder of a business called Chakra Dance, which is all about healing and movement therapy. I'm a Jungian psychotherapist. I'm in love with this man here. And
Yes.
and we love to do all sorts of things. We love to eat beautiful food. We've traveled a lot already, and we know that that's still in our future. And just more and more, I'm about enjoying the present moment. That's my new norm, which is a big for me.
Love it. And I'm Marty. I started out as an elite athlete many, many years ago, rode for New Zealand at World Championships, have been a successful salesperson for many, many years and had a sales coaching business until just recently. Can't do that anymore. And my specialty is mindset empowerment and the art of having challenging conversations. And so we're going to be, you're laughing already, Nat?
Yes.
I'm also known as Mr. Accountability. And so we bring the grit and the grace to this show, and that's what it's all about. Natalie, who is the Still Not Dead podcast for?
As I sort of started at the beginning, it's not, you don't need to have leukemia. You don't need to have an illness. You don't even need to be a carer, because this podcast is a lot about both sides. It's really, I believe, for anyone who's facing any kind of upheaval or challenge in your life. That might be a divorce, it might be a loss of a job, it might be your kids leaving home. Like, things can rock our world really quite easily, can't they? And sometimes unexpectedly. And I think that's kind of a lot of the nature of what we've been going through, is the unexpected, this kind of derailing suddenly. So I think as humans, this is part of what we all go through. So this is for you if you're in that moment right now, or someone you love is as well.
That's beautiful. I couldn't have put that any better myself. And I guess some of you out there may be thinking, it could be a little bit self-serving to take you on our own personal journey. But we're going to share with you the highs and the lows, the tears, the tantrums, the snot blocks, but also the unexpected joys, the unexpected good times, the unexpected hilarity that we find along the way. We're going to talk to you about what we learnt and how we got through. We both specialize in mindset, we both specialize and we both coach this, and we both have between us over 70 years experience helping individuals from
Sounded odd.
around the world live a more inspired and empowered life. And we've been thrust in it as the patient. Just in case you didn't know, if those are looking on YouTube, I'm the one with the nude nut. Natalie's the really attractive, good-looking, intelligent one. I'm just here as a bit of arm candy. But I will share my story, and Natalie will share her story in the hope that during the process we're going to help you through your journey, and together we create something beautiful. That is our goal. And over the next 14 episodes, which is season 1 of the Still Not Dead podcast, we're going to have different guests come in from time to time, and we're really going to share different perspectives on the journey and how we've overcome it, the times we broke, the times and how we got through. And really, I'm really excited to share the story with the world, Natalie.
And I just want to say, we're not through it. Like we're very much in it, you know. So yes, we're going to be going back just a few months actually of when this all started, but we're very much in it day at a time at the moment. So as the podcast evolves, we will take you on the journey with us. So, you know, we don't know what season 2 looks like yet. Yeah.
But I know for a fact there will be a season 2.
Exactly. Yes.
I'm still not going to be dead when season 2 comes around.
Yes.
So, you know, our journey, this journey really started before January, but we want to take you back to around the time of that initial call, where Natalie and I travelled to Melbourne on January the 14th to my daughter's 28th birthday. We spent a couple of days in Melbourne. Now, 2 days before we went to Melbourne, I decided to go for my annual health check. Things weren't quite right, and we're going to take you back further on another episode, so I won't dive too deep into what the symptoms were on this episode. But I knew things weren't quite right. Being an ex-elite athlete, I know my body, and I knew things just NQR, right? And so I went for my annual blood tests and then went to Melbourne. And so we got to Melbourne, and what's the first thing we did? Well, we decided...
Melbourne, you know.
We decided to go shopping, so we went to the DFO on South Wharf, which was near to our hotel. We were having a fat old time, weren't we, Nat?
Yeah, I was like a woman on a mission because we had a London trip coming up, and I needed winter clothes, and we're in Melbourne, and it was like, right, here we go, let's go. So off we went, dragging Martin along with me. Yeah, as I said, woman on a mission. We were hard at shopping this particular day, and we were actually in Calvin Klein. I can remember it now, when Dr. Greg, our local GP, who we're both with here in Noosa, phoned, and you ran over and put him on loudspeaker.
Yeah, as you go through this journey, I'm not a detail person. I'm a big picture person. Natalie is ensconced in the details. So I know from experience that if I'd have taken the call with Dr. Greg, Natalie would have been peppering me with questions, and I would have gone, I don't know. And so I found it way easier just to share all my phone calls with Natalie on loudspeaker, and that would get 2 different perspectives on it. And it also goes back to our radical honesty that we practice in our relationship every day. And that's being radically honest about all things. You know, speak even if your voice shakes. And so I went over to Natalie, Dr. Greg on the phone, and Dr. Greg said to me, Marty, we've got your blood tests back. They are all over the show. We've got no idea what's going on. While you're in Melbourne, I really want you to go get some more blood tests.
Yeah, I had an instant, it's one thing to hear you need more blood tests. That's probably not that kind of out there. But the fact that we were only in Melbourne for 3 or 4 days, and he was insisting that we go right away and get the blood test. It was kind of like, cool, can we wait till Monday when we're back in Noosa? No, you need to go immediately. And that was like, for me. And I can still remember, like, I was in the middle of deciding whether to buy this jumper or not. And it was like, I bought it, but I could already feel a sense of their alarm bells were ringing already. This feels a little bit too serious that he needs immediate blood test. So I was feeling that already at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your intuition was already starting to kick in.
Yeah, it was.
Mine wasn't. I was just bowling along regardless. So the next morning, left the Crown Promenade and got the receptionist to print out my blood test results. And off I was. Thankfully, there was a blood testing laboratory nearby.
And this is where I really started to get alarmed because they printed out what the bloods, what he was being tested for, and you know what anything doctors' reports or any of those things look like. You can't understand it. It's a foreign language. But I did see the letters LEU, and I went leukemia. Hang on, his bloods are out, and LEU is on the form. So I was really starting to get quite panicked. I didn't say anything to you.
No, you never said that with me. So much for radical honesty.
I didn't really want it to even be in my consciousness. Do you know what I mean? It was like, oh my gosh, I think a part of me was like, no, it seriously can't be. It can't be. And anyway, leukemia is for kids. That's, that kids get it. That was in my head. So I was like, no, it must be something else. Don't make a mountain out of a molehill. We've got a great day planned. Let's just, but it was. These things were surfacing within me that day already. Yeah.
Yeah, and if I'd have seen LEU, I wouldn't have even looked at it, wouldn't even cottoned on as to what they were testing for.
Yeah.
And then our next visit was to the MCG. So this year I had a number of live events planned for my sales events. Had one in Sydney, one in London coming up. I was piggybacking on the back of one of Natalie's events, and then we're both going to do one each in San Diego. And this was going to be the last one. And I thought, what better way to have a sales cardio event than at the MCG. So off to the MCG we went and had a tour of the MCG with all the function rooms that were there. Yeah. And that was a lot of fun, wasn't it?
It was, but again, I could just feel something was up, and I was watching you probably more closely now, and just noticing. I was noticing Martin. You can see like what he's like even now in treatment. A lot of energy, an athlete, go getter, at the gym every morning, and I noticed that you were getting puffed out really quite easily and just a little bit behind me. Normally you're the one charging ahead. You were a little bit slower than usual, a little bit flatter than usual. We're going over some bridges, walking over very small bridges, and you were having to have a bit of a stop in the middle and let's look at the water. But I could tell you were actually catching your breath, and it was like this something's feeling off, and so although we were there at this MCG planning this huge event and it was all exciting, I was really noticing these other things at the same time. And again, I was pushing everything down, but it was like, but then we walked from the MCG all the way into the city because there was more shopping to do because I was like limited time to get these clothes. And this is when I really noticed it.
Yeah, it certainly was exacerbated by the fact that we chose to walk. It was a lovely day. And so we chose to walk from the MCG into the city. Now, it's not a long walk, maybe 20 minutes. But I certainly started to notice then that normally I'm 6'1". Natalie's, how tall are you?
5'3".
5'3". And so I have a much longer gait than Natalie. And I'm usually the one, and Natalie's usually, one out, one back while I'm holding her hand. And on this particular day, I was 1 out, 3 back. I was really struggling to keep up. The positive side is that I was focused on her very cute posterior, which was one of the advantages. But yeah, I was noticing that I was significantly more tired. My thighs were struggling, and it was very unusual. Yes, I was getting a little bit more out of breath as well.
Yeah.
And so it almost felt like back in 2011, I did a adventure to the base camp of Mount Everest. And back then, because you're at altitude, I had to be very intentional about the pace that I kept and about the gait that I kept, and I was back into that zone, really focusing on my steps and my breathing, which is something that when you're walking around the city you don't necessarily do.
Yeah, and then there was one moment that we were in Myers, and we were just looking at jackets and things. And first of all, you said, "I'm going to sit down." There was a little cafe in the middle, and you said, "I'll sit down." And then you came over and you said, "I've got to get out of here. I've got to get out of here now." And I was like, "Okay, okay." And I've never seen you like that before. And we were outside. You were just like, "I just need to get out of there."
Yeah, I don't know what came over me, but I knew I couldn't stay in that shopping centre. And if you've been into the Myer or it's Myers in Melbourne in the centre city. It's a massive building. It's connected with David Jones and some of these other big shopping centres. Massive shopping centre. I'm not a stranger to crowds, but it was almost like the walls were closing in, and
The claustrophobia, really, wasn't it?
in a big space.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I knew, and I don't get claustrophobia. I'm quite okay in small places. You could,
Yeah.
anyway. But I knew I had to get out, and as soon as I was back out on the road, I could breathe again. It was a very weird and unusual
Yeah, and there were
situation.
lots of those things. There were a few things you went and sat outside. Like there were signs. Let's just say there were signs, but I think we were both kind of in denial. I was in denial. I won't speak for you. I was still like, no, no,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not going to be anything too serious. Yeah.
Yeah, then it was Alex's birthday that night. We went out for a lovely dinner, and then Friday the 16th.
Yes.
Not Friday the 13th. So again, guess what? There was more shopping involved. So yeah, Natalie had a live event that she'd pre-sold in London, and that was going to happen in March, wasn't it?
March,
Which
yeah.
is winter over there.
Yeah.
Being from Noosa, we don't have many cold weather clothes, so Natalie was on a furious hunt for hats, coats,
Yeah.
winter woolies.
Yeah, yeah. And this is where you were just like, but sitting outside, like it was like I'd be inside and you would have to go and sit outside the shops, and that just wasn't you at all. Yeah. But then we decided to go to the movies.
Yes, we went to see Hugh Jackman and
Kate Hudson, Song Blue.
yeah, which was a lovely movie, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah, which was, but again, we came out of the movie and Martin loves gelato. Like he's a gelato kind of freak. It plans restaurants that happen to be near gelato places. Came out and I assumed that's where we'd be going. And he said, "Oh no, I don't feel like it." I was like, "What?" Okay, this is weird. This is weird. And then as we were walking along, we got the results back from the blood test in a text. And what did they say?
Well, it was one of those, cookie cutter texts that says your results are back, everything's okay. And the doctor will reach out to you if he needs to, one of those texts. So we automatically thought, okay, everything's okay. I was a little bit miffed, to be honest, because I knew something wasn't quite right. And so to hear everything was okay, it's kind of like, okay, maybe that's all in my head.
Yeah, and I wasn't. I've had a text like that before that said there was nothing urgent, and it turned out to be a brain tumor. So it's like I was like, I don't believe those texts anymore. Like, I don't believe them. But we still. It was we kept on. We went and had a beautiful drink, sitting in the sun, didn't we? By the river. It all looked beautiful, and we just had the results. Everything was fine. We've had a beautiful day. And yet something felt off. Something just felt, uh, yeah, something was just sitting there, wasn't it? Yeah.
Being very spiritual, the one thing Natalie is very intuitive, and Natalie feels into a lot of things. And the one thing I have learnt to trust about Natalie is when she has an intuition or when she feels something, listen, because 9 times out of 10, whatever it is right. So back to the hotel we get.
Yeah.
And it was 5:30 p.m. I noticed that a number from Noosa, an 075 number. Now, if you're anything like me, a sales coach, I don't answer phone numbers that I don't know. But the fact that it was 075, it was 5:30 at night on a Friday. For some reason, I thought, I'll answer this phone call. And it was Dr. Greg on the phone. And yeah, this was the start of the changing of our lives. As I said right at the start of the conversation, like most doctors, Dr. Greg did not pussyfoot around. He just said, Martin, your blood tests are back. You've got leukemia. This is serious. If you feel sick while you're in Melbourne, go straight to hospital. This can kill you. Our life trajectory changed in 15 words or however many words that was. Certainly a message that we were not expecting. And I can't even remember the rest of the call, to be honest. Can you?
Yeah, he went into a little bit more detail and he said it was the full name is acute lymphoblastic leukemia. And he was very, very clear about not being around people like that. Your immune system was just gone, and to not be around people, to not be in, everything we've just been doing basically for the last 3 days was completely
No
dangerous.
crowded spaces,
Yeah.
no long walks.
Yeah. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is what we've done everything wrong. Yeah. But we were both just, I can still remember it like it was yesterday, really. It was such a moment of, one part of me knew, and it was like, okay, it's the reality is here. And then the other part of me was in complete shock and denial and no, this can't be right. And yeah.
Because I remember we ended the call and Natalie immediately says, well, that's bad news. Now, my coaching instincts immediately kicked in. And I said to Natalie, well, hang on, let's just not frame it as bad news. Let's just frame it as news, neither good nor bad. Now, I can almost hear some of you throwing something at the podcast or throwing something at the screen if you're watching, going, "How can you possibly, Marty, say that having a diagnosis of leukemia is not bad news?" Well, a couple of things about this. Have you ever had an instance where you've been subjected to something, you've gone, "Wow, that's bad news," only to find out down the track that it actually wasn't bad news at all? But all of the emotions and all the energy that you had were expended into trying to figure out how to get out of the bad news, the emotions that go with it, or vice versa. I know for a fact that I've had tons of times when I've been crowing about, well, that's great news, only for the universe to go, actually, that wasn't the lesson I was trying to prepare you for here. It was actually news that was quite challenging. So I was straight into that mindset coaching mode. And it was something that fits me like a hand in a glove because for me, we didn't have enough information. All we had was a diagnosis. And whilst I wasn't consciously thinking about it at the time, maybe it was a false diagnosis, maybe it was something else. So why get swept up in the emotion of something that could be, inverted brackets, bad news, when there was so much more information? And I guess my initial reaction was one that Natalie mentioned earlier. I thought leukemia was for kids.
Yeah.
I didn't even think adults could get leukemia, but evidently advanced onset leukemia is a thing. Who knew?
Yeah. I did not take this same mindset. I was like, okay, I need to know everything I can possibly know about this. So I was straight on to ChatGPT. I was like, okay, in there asking a million questions, everything from what is it? How rare is it? Which, by the way, it is really rare. It's like less than 1% of all the cancers. What all the prognosis was like, and they were very mixed reviews. So I skipped. The stats aren't traditionally great, but what I have learned is that the treatments are progressing at the rate of knots. So if this had been 2 years ago, we'd be in a different situation from what I've read. But the little things, like I was like, well, have we done anything to cause this? And we'd recently, Martin in particular, had got into this thing called TH7, which I don't know if you've heard of it. It's like cold plunges and then the steam rooms and, in and out.
It's totally amazing.
And he was doing it first with a friend of his, Bigsy, and they were loving it. And then they're like, come along, come along. So I started doing it, not as often as you were, but, it's extreme, it's heat and cold. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is constant. Like it's blood. It's boiling the blood and then fixing the blood. And so I started to research and ChatGPT was like, no, that's not the reason. But trying to find, why suddenly now? Why now? Yeah.
And all this was happening from a hotel room in Melbourne. We were thousands of kilometres away from home. And this really is a great example of the difference in mindsets between Natalie and myself. And neither mindset is wrong. The one thing that we're going through these podcasts is not about making one person's perspective right or wrong. It's about giving you the different perspectives and sharing with you how each of us got through the particular challenges that were thrown at us. And so we've got Natalie, who's the detail person. So Natalie's furiously typing away on ChatGPT. And she said to me, Marty, do you want me to share this information with you? And I was a clear no. I said, no, I don't want to know anything about it. I'd already jumped into the athlete's mindset. And the athlete mindset for me was, what is it? How do I kill it? Let's get to the starting line and let's go. What actions do I have to take? For me, the details were completely irrelevant because they were things that I had no control over. The things that I could control already, and remember, we're only talking 10 minutes after the initial diagnosis, the things that I can control is first I need to know what it is, and we'll get that information next week. Then I need to know that there's a treatment regime or a training program, and I know that I will be able to do that. So that's where I was focused. And so it was quite a difference in perspectives. But the one thing that Natalie and I did discuss was the art of surrender. And I don't know what surrender means to you. Back in 2018, I listened to a audiobook by Michael A. Singer called The Surrender Experiment. And it really changed my life. And in a nutshell, the surrender experiment talks about when things are happening in your life that perhaps you don't necessarily like, perhaps you're resisting, there's natural resistance there. But if you completely surrender and let what happens, then your emotions don't get trapped in your body and everything starts to flow. And so the one thing we discussed that night was surrendering to the diagnosis rather than resisting the diagnosis. Because I imagine a vast majority of people would already be resisting. I haven't got leukemia. That's not it. I'm not sick. And trying to use that energy to push against something that is actually there. It's actually real. Instead of sitting back and going, okay, whatever the journey is, I'm going to surrender into the journey and I'm going to accept what is. Because in the mindset of accepting what is, all of a sudden, a number of different pathways open up. And I know, Natalie, you practice surrender in a lot of areas as well.
I do, but it's not something I got to that quickly in this particular case. In all honesty, yeah, everything you've just described is such a big part of my work. But in all honesty, I was like, what? Why? Why us? Why is this happening? So I didn't go straight to surrender. I'm definitely getting better at it as this journey goes on because you have to learn to surrender when things are like this. But I didn't start there. I had more. I had a lot of anger coming up, and then sadness coming up, and then confusion coming up. I had all sorts of things coming up. What I remember about that night really is that it felt like we were just in a cocoon. No one knew yet. And so even though we'd had the news, it still wasn't fully real because no one else knew straight away. And I just felt like we were in this cocoon, like the calm before the storm. I was so aware. I can feel back into that space now of what was about to come. And not fully. I didn't really know the depths of what we were about to go through, actually. Probably a good thing I didn't know, but I could feel the beauty of that moment of being in this safe cocoon. And I think I went through so many emotions, and then I just needed to cry. I just needed to cry. And I was trying so hard not to because it felt weak, and it felt like you're the one with the diagnosis here. Why, I didn't want to make it about me. And you seem so strong and so positive about it all. And I thought, I can't break down. That's not a good support person, is it? But I just said to you, I've just got to let this out. Yeah.
And I think this is something that a lot of people can learn from, and we're still learning as we go. If you have an emotion, no matter what emotion it is, it needs to be let out. And you heard what Natalie just said. She was trying to be strong for me because I was strong.
Yeah.
But her natural inclination was, I need a good cry right now. That's completely okay. It was completely okay for Natalie to break down, be a mess, cry at that moment, just as it was completely okay for me to be more stoic. And so at the time, I actually said to you, Natalie, hey, look, if you want to have a great cry, let's do that. But I'm not feeling that emotion, but I will support you while we are. So it was a lovely moment because you laid down on the bed and I snuggled in behind you,
Yeah.
and you certainly had a good cry.
Yeah. I just let it. I just felt it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It was. And then it was very much about who do we tell? What's the next step in this? And the next day, we were planning to see 2 of your 3 kids and meet their new dogs, and we had all these plans. We were going to walk the dogs, and your natural instinct was to not tell anyone yet, wasn't it? You were like not really ready to share, and I'll let you talk about that. But my natural instinct, and I guess this is being a parent, was like, but we're in Melbourne. We're in Melbourne now, like where there's an opportunity to be with them with this news rather than so far away. So this was our next discussion. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that I'll just come back to that. But I think the one thing that I wanted to share in around emotions, because I'm a very emotional guy. But the one thing that I am, it's kind of one of my superpowers, is that if there's a crisis, I'm very calm in a crisis. My pulse rate goes down, and all of a sudden, I'm very crystal clear. And I've been in a number of challenging situations throughout my life, whether it was the first cancer diagnosis of testicular cancer back when I was in my 20s, to a couple of marriage dissolutions, to the 2008 GFC, which hit the business with a bang, having to navigate through some really challenging times in business, because my team always used to tell me, Marty, you are so cool in a crisis. And it's because I don't go straight to the emotion. And when it came to telling the children,
Yeah.
I said, well, we don't know anything yet, because my logical brain was going, what are we going to say? I guess also it was a matter of, I thought that we might be saving them as well from news that may not be true. I guess I was still living in hope that maybe it was a false diagnosis. But when Natalie said, hey, Marty, we're in Melbourne, you need to tell them.
And we couldn't stick to the original plans. You weren't allowed to walk a dog, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I texted Sam and I texted Alex and I said, right, let's jump on a FaceTime call tonight, which we did, and that's the first time that I experienced emotion around it, because telling your loved ones
Mm.
that you have a diagnosis was challenging, and thinking about it now, it's probably the very first time when you articulate something, and you were talking about a cocoon
Yeah.
of love that we were in, which we were. The first time I articulated it to somebody else was my kids, and that makes it real. There's no hiding from it now, and so yeah, that was a challenging conversation to have, no question.
Yeah. And, it's, for me, the tears were back again. It was breaking my heart to see it, because I was watching their faces take in this news. And as a parent, your primary job there is to protect your kids, isn't it? And to look after them, and to actually be giving them news and watching you break their hearts was breaking my heart. It was a really hard moment, for sure. Yeah.
But what it did lead to was a conversation around boundaries, like who do we tell and when do we tell
Mm.
them. I'm part of a business group, a lovely business group, and have been for 7 or 8 years. And a lot of people in this business group are my business family. I've been working with them. We've been working on each other's businesses for many years. Like, and hundreds of them, not just one or two. Like, when do we tell people?
Mm.
And uh, the one thing I coach and teach in sales is about boundaries. And this is the one time where I knew I needed boundaries around my energy
Yeah.
for the potential fight ahead. So made the decision that there'd be 10 or 12 of my closest and dearest friends that I would tell, that I could rely on for support. But everybody else, I wasn't going to let know, because I knew the torrent of messages, the torrent of love and support would be that overwhelming that it would throw me completely off kilter, when I needed a very clear direction. And so, if anybody is going through things, you will know probably exactly what I mean. And you may well believe that setting boundaries like this is not right. You may be having a reaction to setting boundaries, but all of a sudden, I had to not worry about what anyone else thought.
Yeah.
All I had to worry about was, okay, what do I need? Because I am the most important person right now. And for me,
Yeah.
having been through cancer once before,
Yeah.
it's only testicular cancer, which, by the way, has a 99% cure rate, unlike the leukemia, but I knew what it took me to get through that.
Yeah.
And it was single-minded. And so that's where I was already there.
Yeah. And I think it is this, like you say, with anything big that you might be going through in your life, it's certain people are not going to be able to handle it, are they? And it's just being, and it doesn't mean that they're bad people or anything like that, but it is this time to really consider yourself. You have to put yourself first, because some people, you share the news and they break down so much that it's like, that's not really helpful for you right now. So I think I think you did it really well. You did it really well. Yeah.
In hindsight, I did, and we're going to share more about that, because it was actually a beautiful journey when we did announce to everybody. But that'll be that'll be brought up in a future podcast. It just so happened that just after that, my sister Carlin called.
Yeah. And yeah, again, he had her on loudspeaker. I think we were like getting packed. We're still in the cocoon. And his sister calls and she's chatting away, updating him. And then the call I could hear was naturally coming to an end. And I could hear you were about to sort of sign off. And I was like, whispering, are you going to tell her? And he was like, should I? And I'm like, yes, you can't. You can't go back. If you hadn't have spoken yet, that would have been one thing. But she loves you so much and you're so connected. And it just didn't feel right. So yeah.
And she knew something. She's
Yeah.
also, because she could see something was going on. I said, what? What do you want to tell me?
Yeah.
So great. Had to talk about it again.
Yeah.
So Friday, the 16th of January, 2026. It certainly changed our lives, and we knew it was going to change our lives. And we talk about our lives because this is not my journey. This is our journey. This is our journey together. And that's one of the reasons we decided to do this podcast, particularly because we're both here. We will never do an individual podcast because this is not only about me. I have the view that being a carer, that being a supporter, is more challenging than actually going through it. Because when you're going through it, like I've been through it before and I'm going through it again, I just have one thing to worry about. Whereas a carer has a number of things to worry about. In Natalie's case, she's worried, obviously, about me. Natalie runs $1 million enterprise with over 1,200 facilitators around the world. Natalie has her home life balance. Natalie has everything else going on. I now have got just this thing to focus on. And so the emotional mindset of carers is neglected in my view.
I'd still take this up. Just saying. I think you've got the harder time for sure. But I also acknowledge what you're saying and I witness this in hospital a lot as well, of the carers and what they do and what they're going through. So to bring some light onto that and to some perspective, I think is part of our intention here. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're quite fortunate where we both have home offices. We both work from home, and so we chat quite often about people who face challenges like this, who are in a normal 9 to 5 job. How do they actually?
I don't know how people do it. I honestly don't know. We've been able to do so much more because I can pick up my laptop and I'm at work, so it's a traveling laptop right now. But I look at some people who are trying to keep the home life running, a 9 to 5 job, get to the hospital. There's a lot that happens. Yeah.
That's difficult. So if that's you, this podcast is for you as well as people like me who are going through something right now.
Yeah.
I think the next day was time to go home.
Yes, this is when for me it became stepping out of the cocoon. Stepping out of the cocoon was terrifying because the words of Dr. Greg were just ringing in my ears of like, he has no immune system. We had to immediately run and get masks. I came down with a cold. I think it was just all too much. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna kill him. Like, just I can't breathe on him. Like, and then we had to get to the airport. We were at the airport, and I swear I could see germs everywhere. Everywhere I looked was a germ. It seemed like everyone was sneezing, everyone was coughing, every surface looked dirty. And from what Dr. Greg and ChatGPT had told me, one germ could literally wipe him out. Like your immune system was gone. So it was one of the most scary plane trips I've ever had. Just the whole thing from getting from the cocoon to home felt like an eternity. I know it wasn't, but it was like, oh, is this ever going to end? And is he going to survive this? It felt so unsafe.
Yeah, and all of a sudden we're in an unsafe world, and I'm not one to react to situations like that. I'm usually situationally a little bit unawares, but the words of Dr. Greg were in the back of my head, And the one thing that we all know, you have to be living under a rock not to know that one of the most dangerous places to be when it comes to picking up bugs or germs is on a frigging aeroplane. And so, not going to lie, I was feeling a little bit meh about the whole situation, being in masks. And it's interesting, putting on masks when masks aren't the general thing anymore, the looks that you get when you have masks on, right? It was like, you could see people looking, going, "Holy crap, what's going on here?"
Yeah. What have you got? What are you going to infect me with? A lot of accusations. Yeah. No, it was a tough trip home, and then coming home, coming back to our home was also a strange moment because everything had changed. Everything was the same, but so different. And obviously, then we told, my kids who live here with us and my family because they're very in our day-to-day world. So again, that was making it that one step more real again. But just everything we're seeing everything through a different lens, and it had only been a weekend. This like this dramatic change in our lives from a weekend away in Melbourne, and yet it felt like the whole universe had shifted. And it was disorientating. Actually, I was back at my desk and going, well, am I going to even be here? And obviously we'll move further into future podcasts about what happens next, but that coming home felt disorientating for me.
And I'm sure many of you who've been through life detours can relate to this.
Yeah.
But I think probably a good place to end this podcast is with a particular job that Natalie tasked me with before we actually left Melbourne. But the precursor to that was something that I'd really like you to share with the people listening to this podcast, because it really encapsulates who Natalie is. So I'd like you to take us and share with us Ruby Wings.
Ruby Wings. Oh, okay. So Ruby Wings is a dream I had. So I'm very into dreams, being a Jungian psychotherapist. His work is all about understanding the messages from dreams from our inner life, a lot of the unconscious world. So I pay a lot of attention to dreams, and I'll probably be sharing quite a few of them. There's been quite a few dreams connected to this. But this was this weekend. I had this just as we came home. I had this dream. So it was before we went into hospital, but I dreamt that there were all these pieces of a jigsaw puzzle, and they were all red. And if you've ever watched The Wizard of Oz, and Dorothy has her ruby slippers and she clicks her heels 3 times to go home, it felt like that. That was the feeling of the dream. But it was all these red pieces, and I had to click them into place like a jigsaw, and I was doing it, and then as I clicked the last piece into place, the whole jigsaw turned into these huge ruby red wings that I had. And there was this knowing, it was like a voice that was like, you're ready. You've been preparing for this for so long. It's not like you're just starting on this journey now. You have been preparing. You can hold this. You have the strength for this. And I woke up, and I don't even know if I told you about that dream at the time.
Don't tell me about the dream, no.
But I woke up, told you about others. I woke up and I just knew that a couple of things. I knew, one, that I do have the strength for this, no matter what happens. This journey is, it's like a journey. And I feel back into those ruby wings. But the second message I got from the dream is that it's not just Martin's leukemia diagnosis. This is our diagnosis, because it is actually changing my life as much, really, as yours, in very different ways. I'm not comparing them, in very different ways. But this realization that, at some level, we've chosen this. I'm a big believer in things happen for a reason, and this is not just something that's happened to you. This is something that together we've come together for. to navigate together, to grow together, to learn, to hopefully help other people, whatever it's about. It felt like I've been preparing for this as well. And I guess as part of this podcast of us coming together to do this, that it's not just one person's journey, it's our journey. Yeah.
So after that dream, you gave me one task, and it really set the boundaries as to the Still Not Dead podcast. So as we go through this leukemia, Natalie, what's the one job you gave me?
I never thought I'd be saying this on a camera. Don't fucking die.
So that is Natalie's job that Natalie's given to me, not to fucking die. And I'm a man of my word. And so I won't.
Good.
And I think the mindset that I have going through this is that the thought of failure doesn't even occur to me, because I know that I will make it to the end. It doesn't matter how tough it gets. It's like, bring it on. I know I'm going to get through. Is it going to be uncomfortable? Sure. Are there going to be times when I'm probably nearly dead? Probably. But I know in the depth of my soul that I'm going to make it through. And we're not going to extrapolate on it now, but 4 months in, we're both already starting to see the gifts that are being presented. And we've got a future episode which is going to be called The Gifts of Leukemia, because there are certainly many.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really good place to end episode 1. Before I do, one thing that Natalie is going to gift every listener at the end of every podcast is a guided meditation. And Natalie, just explain the different meditations you'll be sharing with everybody.
Yeah, so I'm going to just see what comes up each time. But for this first one, I felt like the ruby wings feel really significant. And there's a lot of this journey for anyone here. It's about being present. It's about being in your body. I think when we have shocks or we've got a lot of stuff going on, it's very easy to skip out into, either fantasy land or like lose touch with reality, not be here, not be present. So I want to do just a 5-minute grounding meditation. It's working with the base chakra, the foundation chakra, the color red. You don't need to be into chakras. It's a guided visual journey for you to really come back in and anchor into your body, be connected here on the earth, be held, feel supported. And it's amazing what a 5-minute inner journey like this can do. It's to music that's very of the earth music. And then I'm going to see as we unroll, as we roll on, I'm just going to feel into what's most appropriate and create like that. But this is the first one. Yeah.
And I know that your community will love the meditations. My community will also are very used to meditations. If meditation is new to you, and you're going through this either as a carer or as the person going through it, I would strongly urge you to consider giving meditation a go. And these short, sharp 5-minute meditations, which Natalie will guide you through, will be absolutely amazing. She shares these meditations with the world, and it's her gift to you. And so rather than me come back on after the meditation and, break the flow, we're both going to say goodbye now, and we'll see you on episode 2. This is our very first podcast, so smash the like, the follow button, recommend it to friends, because the more that we can get our message across, the more lives that we can help impact in a positive way. So appreciate your attention, appreciate the love. Until next time, it's a ka-cha from me.
Okay, continue from me too.
See you on the next one. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.
I invite you to softly close your eyes or lower your gaze and begin by taking 3 slow, deep breaths. And now imagine yourself somewhere beautiful in nature, wherever feels most right for you. Feel the earth beneath you, its smell, its quiet strength. And feel the earth supporting your whole body, holding you. You don't have to do anything, you're just being held. And now bring your attention down through your body, down through your legs and your feet, all the way down into the earth. And imagine a deep living connection like roots reaching all the way down into the earth's warm red core, anchoring you, steadying you. You are part of this earth. You belong here. And as you breathe out, release anything heavy, any tiredness, any tension, any fear. Just let it dissolve into the earth. And as you breathe in, feel something returning. A deep, red, living, warm energy rising up through your body, nourishing every cell. And feel these words in your body. I am safe. I am supported. I belong. And now take 3 slow, deep breaths. And when you're ready, slowly opening your eyes.